Hey guys, what's going on here? Counterspell here. Thank you guys so much for 10 subs. I uh, was counting on you guys for this, and you delivered. So instead of an EDH guide today, we are actually going to look at maybe some commanders, like custom commanders. I would recommend like 20 of them for like wizards in the future. Maybe like I would want to see. So let's get to it with the bottom one. Byrai Hexed Horror for one generic and a blue and a black. He is a legendary zombie wizard with hexproof on 3. And whenever a card will be put into an opponent's graveyard from their library, you gain an experience counter. So this would have been a great commander during that whole experience counter cycle, which was Commander 2016 or 18. I'm not too certain. But still, this would have been a great one for that blue-black commander in that time. However, the only problem with it is that whenever an opponent puts a card into the graveyard from anywhere, so that's via mill, discard, sacrifice, anything, each other opponent puts a card from the top of their library into the graveyard for each experience counter you have. So the problem with this is that since they are putting cards into their graveyard, they are triggering a Byrai Hexed Horror, and then he's gonna mill everyone except for you. And it's just infinite from there because everyone keeps milling, putting cards in the graveyard, triggering Byrai in both ways. So that's the only reason why this isn't higher up, is because it's an infinite combo. If it wasn't like this, then Byrai would definitely be higher up on this list. Next, we have Moltor, Battle Analyst for one generic, a blue, a red, and a green. It is a legendary mole advisor who says whenever you cast a creature spell, you may have an enemy battlefield under opponent's control. 1/5. And then for one generic, a red and a green, you can gold all creatures target player controls. They get +1/+1 and trample until your next turn. And whenever a creature you own but don't control dies, you create a 1/2 green mole creature token. So this could definitely be interesting. It's like that one commander, I forgot his first name, the Great Hearted, who you could give your permanents to your opponents to, and in exchange he would give you life and cards. This one's kind of like that. I would like to see this kind of, but not really, since you'd have to give away permanents. Like you'd have to build like a vanilla based creature deck, and I don't see much value in that. I mean, goading all creatures target player controls, like that's very useful because then they cannot attack you, and they are forced to attack someone else, and they gain trample and +1/+1, which is nice. But still, if they just kill Moltor and they have a bunch of your creatures, then it's just all over. Ain the Den Mother, yeah. For 3 generic, a black and a red and a green, we have number 3 on this list. I mean, no, not number 3, sorry. 18, number 18, excuse me. Creatures you control with reach get +2/+2 4/7. She doesn't have reach herself, even though she's a legendary spider. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you create a 1/2 green and black spider creature token with reach. So that will immediately become a 3/4. Now, reach, this deck is only at 18 because this is like Thantis the War Weaver, which was a commander that whenever you were a planeswalker you control was attacked, it would get bigger and bigger, and it caused all creatures to attack each combat if able. and it had vigilance and reach, and it had like some toughness. This commander is kind of like that, where you just, I guess, where you just sit behind a wall of like big defenders, taking the swings without really much damage going through. This is kind of nice, but again, not really, because it's like you're not really doing much. You're playing defensive, and like that's kind of not really how Magic is supposed to be played. You're kind of like supposed to be aggressive. Besides reach, useful creatures that have like useful creatures with reach like are hard to come by. Eleanor, Bride of Ulrich / Eleanor the Hunt Mother, both are pretty good because they're of course one card. So legendary human werewolf. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Eleanor, Bride of Ulrich, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Other werewolves you control get +1/+1 for each +1/+1 count, +1/+1 counter on Eleanor. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Eleanor, Bride of Ulrich into Eleanor the Hunt Mother, legendary werewolf. And when this creature transforms into Eleanor the Hunt Mother, target werewolves you control gains indestructible until end turn, and other werewolves you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Eleanor the Hunt Mother. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells this turn, transform Eleanor the Hunt Mother. Problem with this commander and why it's only like why it's only number 17 on this list is because it's like yeah, 17 is because it's easy to like keep it on its day side, and it's kind of hard to keep it on its night side because everyone's going to be casting spells. I mean, unless you have like one wolf that keeps your non-human werewolf creatures on their night side, then this could be a great deck. But other than that, like, you know, not to mention werewolf tribal is kind of hard because like there's humans in the beginning, and it's like that's just it's kind of hard because I guess what I'm trying to say, it's kind of hard because like you have to keep your creatures on their night side for it to be more effective. I mean, it still can be effective because of the whole +1/+1 counter thing, and you just being able to put +1/+1 counters on Eleanor, but still. At number 16, we have Aramis, Relentless Force, black, red, and green for a legendary Hydra Horror with Trample. 0/0 enters battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to twice the number of Hydras you control. So first of all, text fixing. And whenever a Hydra you control dies, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target Hydra you control. Problem with this is that like if you put all your +1/+1 counters on Aramis, then someone could just kill it. Although the counters on Aramis would then go on to another Hydra, but then someone just plays a board wipe and you're completely screwed. Not to mention it's hard to like cast, just straight up cast Hydras without like pumping a huge amount into them. And also there aren't many Hydras outside of red and black. Ronjon, Justice Bringer, from one generic, a red, a green, and a white. It's a legendary Archon. Creatures you control have vigilance and can tap to fight another target creature you don't control. It's a 4/4, and whenever you cast a spell that targets one of your creatures, copy it targeting each other creature you control. So the problem with this is that like usually whenever you have like a spell targeting a creature you control, it's only meant to target like one creature, or it's just like not that effective, even when copied a bunch. But like it still can be effective. This isn't like Zada level effective, if you know what I mean. Like, because you also have to like try and create tokens. So like I guess like I made it difficult in the way I built it because like I had to try and create tokens. If you can get like instants and sorceries that like target a singular creature and also create tokens, then you're golden for this deck to work. Other than that, this would probably be higher up on the list and probably should be. Zartun in iterative designer. I don't know. 2 generic, a white and a black for a legendary zombie wizard that gives creature cards in your graveyard embalm. Their embalm cost is equal to their mana cost. So what embalm is that you pay the embalm cost and then you exile that creature card from your graveyard, and then you create, excuse me, a token that's a copy of it, except it's white and it's just a zombie, I believe. In addition to its only color is white and it has no mana cost. That's right. And then for white and a black, you can sacrifice a creature to populate, which means you create a copy of a token, a creature token you control. That you already have. So the problem with this is this wouldn't really be unique. This would just fall under like zombie tribal. So then you just have like zombie lords running around, and it's just like, oh, your opponent could just sacrifice a bunch of creatures and make like a whole bunch of copies of a zombie lord and then just swing. Not to mention, it's kind of boring because like we see zombie tribal a lot. And it's like I kind of want something unique. So this card, as good as it is, maybe not. As Osculus, I have no idea. Cultivator of Force, 3 generic, hybrid, white, black, meaning you can pay that with white or black, and then double green. And whenever a force enters the battlefield under your control, target tree field gets +1/+1 for each force you control until end of turn. That's pretty cool. And whenever a tree folk you control dies, you create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. So this last line of text kind of screwed this guy over because whenever a sapling you control dies, you put a spore counter on target creature. Oh, by the way, legendary tree folk 3/6. The whole forest part is pretty great. The tree folk death trigger is amazing because you could utilize like the white and black parts. But the whole spore counter, now I know there are cards in the past that you would utilize spore counters to make more saplings or buff them up, but those cards aren't like being reprinted today, or like, and besides, those cards kind of effective, but not really. And not to mention, this is Abzem we're talking about. So we would just be seeing, typical sacrifice build army like Rise of the Dark Realms. I mean, this would be very cool to see if Wizards could find a way to like create a balanced recon deck of this. I would like to see that. But other than that, I think this guy would be higher up on this list if maybe he didn't have the spore counter line of text, and maybe he did a little more with this death trigger. Next I have Malacco's Fiend of Misery. I actually did a video on this guy for 3 generic, a blue and double black, and a red. He's a legendary elder demon, 7/8, who causes demon spells you cast to cost 2 less to cast, 2 generic less to cast. And then you can pay 3 life to him, sacrifice X minions, and add X mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. And whenever a demon enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X life, where X is equal to its mana cost. If you do, target player loses 3 life and discards 2 cards. Then you draw a card and create X 1/1 black minion creature tokens with flying wither, meaning that they deal damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. Now, as powerful as this is, it wouldn't be necessarily fun because of the sheer the busted things you could do. Like it wouldn't be fun for your opponent or for you if you're going against this. It's like think about it. You could just create a ton of minions and just endlessly play demons. Not to mention the big problem of watching your life total. And demons tend to be very hefty and expensive. I mean, it does cause your opponents to lose life, but I believe most of the time you're going to be losing life faster. Now there are cards that can give you life back, sure, but due to this being so broken, I think maybe if it wasn't as broken, you could only use the pay 3 life and sacrifice X minions ability only once each turn. I think that would make it much more balanced and probably maybe make it top 5. I definitely top 5. Other than that, this is a pretty cool card. Go check out the commander video I did on this because it's all demon tribal. Gragas, Golgari Champion. 4 generic, a black and a green. He is a legendary zombie with trample 5/3. Whenever a +1/+1 counter is put onto another creature you control, you put a +1/+1 counter on Gragas, Golgari Champion. And then he's got an interesting activated ability. For 3 generic and double hybrid black green, you can tap in to put a creature card you own from exile into your graveyard. So this is a clear sign you're going to be playing Scavenge. Now, the reason I don't have this on as high as the list is because we see a lot of this sort of stuff. Black green has been using a lot of counters. Not to mention most combinations that include green tend to be broken and unfair. Today, they're just getting more and more powerful. It takes something in blue-black that isn't control to stop them. Undead Unleashed. And honestly, this is just the same old boring thing Golgari just does. Is just mill. This would be using Life from the Loam, which is I believe a banned card, and it's just people would probably easily get tired of this due to how it plays. Other than that, this would be a cool card, but I kind of want to see new ways to play color combinations, how Wizards did with Undead Unleashed. They took a break from control really, because in the past blue-black decks or any color combination with blue-black in it, so blue-black and green, they tend to be more controlling really, and that's kind of frustrating to go against. That enhanced evolution, I hated that. Other than that, this would probably be a great commander to see. I think I've kind of lost track. Let's see. We were at 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 15, 11. All right. Now we're down to 10. Revo of the Dark. Halfway up this list. For 2 generic, a green, a blue, and a black. He is a legendary lizard wizard with Skulk, meaning he cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power. 2/4. And whenever a creature control deals combat damage to a player, target player mills that many cards. And whenever you mill a card, if it's a creature card, you may put that card into your hand and add 1 mana, any one color. Until end turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Again, with the whole Golgari thing, because that is this, but even more powerful and broken and cheesy. This is Malacos and Gragas combined essentially into like green, blue, and black. I mean, you can just mill your opponent a whole bunch because this is in green, so it's capable of like having a bunch of big creatures and blue black, which is what it likes to do. Not to mention, it's just like, and whenever you mill a card, if it's a creature card, you may put that card into your hand and add 1 mana and pay 1 color. Like this is just playing the same thing over and over again. Like kind of change it up. Like I want to see something that like I guess Sultai commander wouldn't do. Or if you nerf this card, I would definitely put this up high on the list. Like if that ability was like only once per turn, then I would definitely probably put this up high on this list. But due to being how like broken this card probably is, and the fact that you can like target anyone with the mill ability, I haven't put it up as high on this list. Still a very good card. Next we move to number 9. Hazali? Oh, I don't know. Disciple of Ruin. For 2 generic, a green, a blue, and a black. She is a legendary Merfolk Warlock with hexproof from red and from white, meaning that she can't be the target of spells and or abilities that are red and or white. 2/5. Kraken, Leviathan, Serpent, and Octopus spells you cast have Delve. So Delve, you can exile for each card you exile from your graveyard. The card with Delve that you are casting costs 1 generic less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, you mill cards equal to the greatest power among you control. Then you may return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Problem if this can mill you out pretty fast because like dragons, Leviathan, and servants and octopi normally like the ones that are playing in our scene today, most of the time are pretty hefty when it comes to power. Not to mention, it's hard to make use of like all this tribal because like octopi aren't really that powerful. Like the only powerful we've had recently was the Living Thesis one, and I forgot the first name for my life. But that was only for like instants and sorceries and stuff. And not to mention, again, same deal with Revel of the Dark. John, yo, please. Ouch. Again, like can kind of like I want to see something different, kind of, I guess. And this would be very cool to play, but like this is so cheesy. It's just I think that this could be better if it was like nerfed a bit and maybe even adjusted. Like maybe if it was like merfolk, like or fish, like that would be unique. That would kind of be something I would want to see, or like crabs. That would be kind of funny and unique at the same time. Like the other side of sea creatures, because we've seen like actually recently in Innistrad Crimson Vow, we saw like something like Runo of the Stormkirk and his other flip side. I forgot its name. Like that video that was about like Krakens, Leviathans, Octopi, and Serpents. Like that sort of tribal is very powerful, but like it's actually been kind of seen a lot. So kind of change it up is what I'm saying. At number 8, we have It Who They Follow. This is a very, very powerful commander in my eyes. Because for red, white, and a black, it's a legendary human wizard 2/2. Whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents, its controller creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token and you gain 1 life. That's pretty cool. And whenever It Who They Follow deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all tokens that player controls. They become 2/2 zombies in addition to their other types. So one of the things with this is like can be pretty broken because this is asking to not be attacked, and in exchange your opponents get more stuff. But when it comes time for you to face off like 1v1, they could have like a billion zombies. I mean, you are gaining life. Not to mention, Winota being used in this deck could just be outright broken, because then you could just build all humans, and because of it who they follow, creating 2/2 black zombie creature tokens and giving you life whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents. That means you'll, with Winota out, and like your entire deck being human-based creatures, you could just like essentially cheat them out. Because you create the zombie, right? Then it comes around and you have Winota out. The zombie attacks, you get the attack trigger, which allows you to look at the top 6 cards of your library and put a human onto the battlefield tapped and attacking under your control. And that's whenever a creature attacks for it who they follow's trigger. Meaning that if multiple creatures attack, that's going to be multiple attack triggers going off for it who they follow, giving you a bunch of life and possibly a bunch of zombies, and all, but also for your opponents. This does benefit you, but still kind of broken a bit, but not as like broken as like some of the stuff that's been seen. I guess if it who they follow wasn't in the colors for Winota, then it would be much better. Because like if this was like in red, blue, black, this would be definitely interesting. Because that could add a whole new that could be a whole new like type of zombie tribal. Like Grixis zombie tribal, that's kind of something I would kind of want to see. But like it being in red white is kind of what does it for this card. Like that's kind of what makes it not so high on this list as it would be if it wasn't in red white, because you are just able to play Winota and just have like entirely human creatures without any of the non-human creatures that you normally need to trigger off Winota, because you're playing a commander that is a human as well and creates non-human creature tokens and gives you life. And not to mention the whole life game thing, like that's getting old. Like I've seen that in way too much in like standard, in command, in like especially in historic, and you'll know what I mean if you watch like some of my MTG arena videos. Lure, King of Predation. I actually did a video on this. Go check that out. Black, blue, red, and a green for a legendary ape demon 3/3. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may put a ++ counter on that creature, and creatures control with ++ counters on them have menace and can't block. Hold on. So this, yeah, number 7. Whenever a creature's control dies, you also draw a card for each counter on that creature. So the problem with this is the fact that like you can't block, and also menace, and like it's ++ counters, and it's 4 colors. So first of all, this is kind of difficult to play being in 4 colors. I mean, we have 5-color commanders, sure, but like, and second of all, the whole draw a card for each count on that creature whenever a creature dies, like that's more like going towards green black sort of fashion of style, I guess it's things. Not to mention it can be any counter. If it's that +1/+1 counter, then maybe this would be higher up. And there's also the camp creatures you control with ++ counters on them have menace and can't block. Like, first of all, menace, that's just like can be hard to block in general if your opponent has like an army of menace creatures and they're huge. And due to his cast trigger, for creature spells you cast, your creatures are gonna be having +1/+1 counters on them naturally. But also can't block. That means that if someone swings and you have like huge creatures that are untapped, but they have +1/+1 counters on them, then they can't block and you could just die. So this is like also forcing you to attack whenever you can. Otherwise, your creatures are just there for nothing, mostly. Definitely a great commander, but I think with some tweaks and adjustments, this could be definitely better. Like take away the mess and can't block. It maybe have it like once each turn, whenever you cast a creature spell, you may put a +1/+1 count on that creature. And also have like the death trigger be like a once each turn thing. I think then that commander would definitely better, and probably also make it worth a little more mana, because like a commander this powerful should definitely cost more. So now I believe we move on to number 6. Yeah, 6. Excuse me. Kosim, Death Veil Guardian. For 2 generic, a white, a blue, and a black, it's a legendary zombie dragon with flying and death touch, 4/5. And whenever zombie you control dies, you may exile it with a flesh counter on it. And whenever Kosim dies, put all zombie exile with flesh counters on them onto the battlefield under your control, and it gets +1/+1 for each card in exile with a flesh counter on it. Now, again, zombie tribal, like we've seen this over and over again. Like we actually once did see this in Esper. So this is kind of just a continuation of that, except probably more OP because then you're just building with like zombie ETB effects. But that's why this commander is also so high on this list, is because like when it dies, you get all those zombies back, which could be like a bunch of zombie ETBs, and that would be definitely interesting. To see like a deck built around zombie ETBs and not like how you typically would build zombie commander decks and tribal. Not to mention them getting exiled and Kosim getting stronger because of it. So definitely an interesting concept. However, most people probably would build this the way you normally would with zombie tribal, like lords and all of that sort of effects. That's why this isn't as high up. If you could somehow guarantee that this was like based around the zombie ETB effects, then I would probably have this higher up on the list. But still, this is a very good card. Salu Belzor, Nature's Defiler, for 2 generic, a black, a red, and a green. He is a legendary human shaman with death touch, and you can sacrifice 3 token creatures and return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. 1/2. Only reason this guy isn't higher up on the list is because of like how many things make creature tokens and like token doublers, like doubling season, and how broken this would be being in black, red, and green, which are like some of the, like that is probably the most aggressive color combination, if not one of them. Like depending on how you play color combinations, or like how the deck is built, but most likely this is one of the most aggressive color combinations and one of the most powerful. Like we all know that for sure. Like anything with green in it, as I stated in this video probably already, is very powerful. Not to mention, this could just end up being like another Golgari mill deck that creates tokens. So it's just like, again, sacrificing the whole mill thing, like, you know, all of that. And it's like, I mean, now this has sacrificed 3 token creatures, which is definitely an interesting spin. Because normally, like, some things would say, like, non-token creature dying or, like, sacrifice a non-token creature would make it easy, which would make it harder on you to just, like, sacrifice stuff. Sure. And that's why I kind of like this, because this is kind of like a tweak on that. Instead of sacrificing creatures you have that are like non-token, you actually sacrifice token creatures, which kind of forces you to build tokens. But like, what if you don't have tokens on your battlefield? Then like you can't use Zalu Belzor, and he's completely useless. That's why that's kind of an all balance, but still, with how many things create creature tokens, this is unbalanced, and this is like kind of like the same old thing we've seen from like Jund in general, like dying, sacrificing stuff, and getting rewarded for it. It's the same thing, man. And reanimating, like we've seen a bunch of like reanimate stuff that comes off of sacrificing creatures. Like maybe if this had a different sort of effect, I would be happy. Like reveal the top card. If it's a permanent, if it's an instant or sorcery, you may cast it. That would be interesting to see. Red, green, black, or I guess like Jund for short. Instants and sorcery token deck. That would be very interesting. Corlax, the poison one. So now I believe we are like in top 5. No, this is number. No, we were in top 5. Number 4, Corlax, the poison one. For 4 generic, a black, a red, and a green. He is a legendary elemental beast with trample, 7/7, and when he enters the battlefield or attacks, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Now, I will address something and how we've kind of been seeing this sort of Uro like this sort of Theros Beyond Death, like these Titan style creatures. What I mean by that is like creatures that have like both ETB effects and attack effects that both do the same thing. We've definitely been seeing more of those, and like that's one of the reasons like why this isn't as high on the list, is because like we're having more of those effects, and it's just like maybe just have him like at the battlefield and put a -1/-1 counter on a target creature. But I haven't read the full text. Whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step if Corlax the poison one is still on the battlefield. Now that's the problem right there. Him being still on the battlefield. Now that does kind of off balance him, which is why he's like high up on this list, because he's got some balance. Although he's in Jund, which like still, and like sacrificing creatures with -1/-1 counters. Like still, like maybe if he had like a line of text that like if that creature wasn't sacrificed, because you could just put a -1/-1 counter on like big creature with an amazing ETB effect, sacrifice it, and then have the Corlax be on the battlefield still, and then like reanimate it. But still, putting -1/-1 counters on your own creatures, that's a unique effect, and I'd like to see that. Like all these, I was thinking about doing custom commander videos on. If you want to see that, like one of these for a custom commander video for like part 2 of this special, then I will give that to you guys if this isn't enough. All right, next we have number 3 on this list, Myla, Bear Soul Warrior, for a green, a blue, and a red. She's a legendary human warrior. 3/3. Whenever a creature you control with power 4 or greater is dealt damage, put a postal counter on it. Now this is like, again, same thing green does, and also like power 4 or greater. Like we're beginning to see more and more of this meta. Like if we had like power 3 or less, this would definitely be interesting. And also putting postal counter on it, then like now it's just like full on like green, blue, red, like typically what they do. If it said like draw a card, like have it deal damage equal to its power to any target, that would be interesting. Whenever a creature with power 4 greater enters battlefield under control, you may have it fight another creature. It is a nice effect. And then for also 3 generic and a green, a blue, and a red, you can create 4/4 green bear creature token. Now, I mean, it's kind of busted because like you can create bears if you don't want to do anything else. And the like I said, power forward grid meta kind of just been showing up a bunch. Like that's like a Garrett, like that's just asking to build like a whole bunch of green creatures like Elder Gargaroth and dragons and stuff, and that's just like if we could see like a power 3 or less sort of strategy, maybe with this even, then that could be very useful. Like put the plus count on it. Like that way it's not as powerful, but it still kind of is like a unique, powerful effect. I'm supposed to be meeting at 5:15. Next, we have number 2 on this list. So, Chizith, the Lingering Fear. For 4 generic, a blue and a black, we have a legendary creature nightmare. So, automatically, right off the bat, there is a problem because if you haven't seen the Umbers video, go check that out. And because that guy is running around, this being a nightmare is a real big problem because that's like another creature you could play in an unfair commander deck. And it's just like, oh, another nightmare. Like, exile so many cards until you hit a land. Like, go watch that video and you'll know what I mean. And if another creature would die, exile with a consume counter on it instead, legacy, pay 5 life, you may cast a creature card from exile with a consume counter on it without paying its mana cost. If it is a nightmare in addition to its other types, activate this ability only once each turn. It did auto balance itself, great, but the problem is, first of all, nightmare again. Go watch the video, you'll understand. And this can like cheat out creatures. So, like you could cheat out like a storm type Leviathan. You could cheat out like something powerful like a consecrated sphinx for like 5 lives or something like that. This definitely is a creature card, and also an interesting, like would be an interesting commander to see if it was a little bit more nerfed. And whenever this creature dies, you may exile it instead. If you do put it in payment token onto the battlefield under your control, it has indestructible and disability. I don't know why that's there, or if that's for length. I assume that's for this creature card. Like, why'd you put it in parentheses? That's something I don't get. But like, again, if this thing was maybe a little more balanced, like maybe the cost you had to pay in order to get a creature card from exile with the consume counter on it without paying its mana cost was a bit heftier, like 10 life, or like sacrifice 10 permanents and pay 10 life and discard your hand. Like that's a hefty cost. That means it's worth it. And also the creatures not being nightmares, or they're only allowed to be nightmares. So like if another nightmare or horror you control would die, like, or just nightmare or horror, exile with a consume counter on it instead. Now that would probably make this maybe even number 1. But this being how it is, honestly, with how powerful it is and kind of how balanced with it is, honestly, I'm pretty satisfied with this. Like, they eliminate that line of text with like the parentheses, and I think this would honestly be number 1 and like would actually be a legitimate commander. Like, I would want to see this, even though we do have Umbers running around. And for number 1, we have dual toss, the Warwind for black, a red, and a green and white. Those are all probably like, this is probably like one of my favorite color combinations. Legendary creature, Elder Elemental. Not something you see every day. Flying haste 4/4. Whenever he or another elemental enters battlefield under control, choose one. That does it right there for me. The whole elemental tribal and being in colors outside of blue, but still being within green and like red. That's what makes this commander so good, because like you have to try and incorporate the white and the black instead of just being able to spam like elementals when you're in like red, green, and blue, because those are the colors where elementals are most common. Anyway, so whenever this guy or another elemental artifact feels under control, you may choose one. You choose one. You put a +1 count on dual shots, or he fights target creature you don't control, or exile target non-land, non-creature permanent you control until dual toss leaves the battlefield. So that right there is a great one, because this guy can put +1 counters on himself, fight creatures, and like he can exile something that isn't a land or a creature, or a creature, excuse me. So it's like kind of balanced, actually, that part right there, that third option, because you can just exile creatures, but no, you can only exile enchantments and artifacts and planeswalkers. But still, that's kind of genius, because like it then punishes you for losing your commander and not being able to protect him. Because if he leaves, then your opponent gets all that stuff that was exiled by him back. So all those artifacts, enchantments, and planeswalkers, they come back. They can't get the creatures back, unfortunately. And also the fact that this can't target lands is pretty balanced too. I like whoever did this. And flying in haste, that's really good. Like flying in haste, allowing this to come in immediately, but also like allow you to play elementals in your main phase, build it up, and then swing with this card in combat. Like that's kind of what does this for me. And also elementals, it's, if you couldn't tell from like my MTG Arena videos, which like I've said, go watch those. Elemental tribal is one of my like favorite types of tribals out there. Like it's so powerful. It's like the elementals are pretty powerful. Like they're one of my favorite ones because of how powerful they are. And this being in like not in all the colors of elementals is very interesting, because like you take out blue and suddenly you're down to only red green elementals, but also the black and white ones, which is like there's not many of those, but at the same time they can be still powerful. And it's kind of fun to like see how you like replace the remaining cards that would normally be like blue elementals. So honestly, that's why this is kind of number one, and that's why, and I've also given now that's why like everyone is like where they are. If you want to see one of these decks showcased in a video of mine, like I've already done a custom commander guide on Malacco's Archfiend of Misery, which was the Masters of Torment custom commander guide video, and Lure King of Predation. I've already done him too. So if you want to see like a video starring one of these other guys, like maybe like one of the top 5 or top 10, then I will do that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this 10 sub special. I thank you so much for 10 subscribers, guys. Now let's try and get to like 20 or 15 first, whichever you guys prefer. Thank you for supporting me. Keep watching my videos, keep the view count on the upward rise. I love seeing those videos, just checking them and seeing like their view count having increased. Share this video with others. Hit the notification bell for more, so that way you don't miss more of this content. Go watch my other videos, obviously, as I've mentioned in this video a bunch by now. Like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and I will see you the next time.